It's been 12 months since I've ordered my Garmin Vector 3 power meter pedals. I have the replacement pair. These have been sitting on the shelf for 6 months. I've called it problem avoidance. Today, we go through my experience of my replacement Vector 3 power meter pedals. Firstly, a quick recap of the Garmin Vector 3 pedals if you're not familiar with these. So they're the 3rd generation power meter from Garmin, so everything should be sorted by now. No external pods or external batteries required. Easy install and easy bike swap. No torque wrench required, just a 15mm wrench or spanner. We'll get them on. They're the true left-right power meter as well. They're 2 independent power meters. They are one of the lightest power meter pedals out there at a claimed 316 grams weight. Accuracy plus or minus 1%. Cleat type look Keo. The Q factor itself is only 1 to 2 millimeters wider than a standard set of pedals, so you really won't notice them if you put them on the bike. Stack height, again, only a few millimeters there, almost undetectable. The Vector 3 support ANT+ and Bluetooth Smart, and within Bluetooth Smart you get true left and right, so it's happy days if you're using iOS, Apple TV, or something on Android over Bluetooth with these. And also cycling dynamics. At this point in time, the Vector 3s are the most complete package out there for features and usability of the power meter pedals. They're neat, they're really, really good looking, they're easy to use, and they should just work. Hence, that's why I went out and bought a pair. But they're not without their issues. So the backstory with my original set of Vector 3s, well, it's all documented here on YouTube. I've spent a week or more a while ago trying to get these things to work, and then I did a 6-month follow. It just wasn't happy days at all. So the first pair that I had were a little troublesome to say the least. The power numbers that I had coming from them were not in line or consistent with other known good power sources, and I tested multiple power sources, so I still wasn't happy with the numbers I was seeing from my original set of Vector 3s. I then encountered the same issue as a number of other people with the battery doors, batteries moving around, causing spikes and dropouts. Garmin did supply a new set of battery doors, which solved that problem. No spikes or dropouts, but I was still having some issues with the power readings. I put out some known calibrated weights and did the static weight test on both pedals, and that indicated something was up with the pedals. I wasn't getting the same reading from both sides. So taking myself out of the picture, taking any other power meter out of the picture, and just doing basic physics on the power meter pedals, and they were different. So Garmin took them back and supplied me with this new set. So these replacement units have been sitting on the shelf for the last 6 months. I call it problem avoidance. I've been using my Asioma Duos, the P1s, and it's been happy days with those. I tried to return those for a full refund, but they wouldn't take them back because they are a returned set from Garmin or a replacement set. It got all too tricky, so I kept them on the shelf. This week, Ray has put out his DC Rainmaker's Power Meter Buyer's Guide for 2018 and gave the Vector 3s a pretty good rap because his experience has been pretty good. I thought it was time to put these on the bike, take them out for a ride, or take them in for a ride and get some data as well, and see if my experience was any better with these replacement sets. Look, I won't take you through the full unboxing and installation process. It was the same as last time, but do note these pedals are pretty stiff out of the box. You can screw them onto the crank, pretty much holding the pedal body, and then just locking them down with a 15mm wrench. The pairing process was a lot easier, so there's obviously been improvements made there with the Garmin Connect app on the phone. However, one issue that I have experienced and am still experiencing is the Garmin Connect telling me that I need to update the firmware on the pedals, even though it has the latest firmware. So I've submitted a bug report over to the team. They're looking into that now. However, I soldiered on with that. So with that, I've got a lot of data. I've got data from inside, from outside, and from upside down.
But what's the point of that?
Okay, outside me has a point there. Let's not worry about the upside down data. Jumping over here to DC Rainmaker's analysis tool, where we can compare multiple power meters together at the same time with an overlay and see what's up. So the first test I have here, first test of 3 Lama Lab tests with the Vector 3s up against the Tacx Neo and also the stages left, right, but it's a rabbit hole we'll go into in a minute. What we're seeing here though, it's happy days. Look at that. You can hardly tell any separation between the two in steady state, 200 watts, 250 watts, and hang on, we'll get into the sprint in a minute, but let's just dive into this closer now. Happy days, absolute happy days. 230 versus 228 watts there. Again, the stages left, right is reading a little low. Okay, disclosure on the stages, it's reading low on the right side of things. Shimano crank reading low on the right. Who'd have thought? More on that in another video. But it's consistent otherwise. So again, what we're looking at though is the Vectors versus the Neo. Happy days. Look, both the Vectors and the Neo is plus or minus 1%. Drivetrain, you're looking at 2% in the best case scenario. So if there's, say, 3 to 4% difference with these, it's still within spec. These are looking pretty good. Makes me happy. Here's the interesting one though, and now here's the rabbit hole starting right now. Into the sprints and into the overs and unders, yeah, they do separate a little bit. The sprint itself on the vectors, overshot a little bit, and then once that sprint had been performed, now this is just after I had installed the pedals, one first maximal sprint, and the numbers were a little skewed. And then into the overs and unders there, you can see they've just jumped a little higher. It's like, wow, well, the steady state was good, but then the overs and unders weren't that good. So I stopped, unclipped, re-zeroed everything, voila, happy days. Look at that, nearly 1 for 1. It appeared they needed a bedding in. So typically I will install a power meter, go for a hard ride and throw the data away, but no one's got time for that. I needed some good data pretty quick. So that first stomp on the pedals with that first sprint, really separated a few things, and the zero offset then brought everything back into line. So looking at the top and tail of that session, steady state, all good, and the over and under at the end were all good. Would it happen again the next time though? So Llama lab test number 2. Same deal, riding along, numbers look pretty good. Sprint looks pretty good, as you can see here. The sprint itself, no overshoot there. Maybe just a little bit, just a tiny bit. Look, that's to be expected. That's looking really good. So like looking at the kicker core data we were seeing the other day where it overshot and kept, that's how everything should look. But then in the overs and unders, it was still a little bit off. See here? But not as much as last time. Again, stopped, re-zeroed, and when I did the re-zero, or the calibration Garmin called it on their head units, the torque value actually prompted up a little number, because you can see real-time torque on the pedals. That's how you do static weight tests with the vectors. It was, in the first instance with the Llama lab test number 1, the torque reading after the sprint was 2 something, and then went to 0, as it does when it zeroes the offset. And then in this time, I read it a 0 here after about 26 minutes, and it was 1 point something, so a little bit less overshoot, and look, the numbers there, back into line, pretty happy. So, round 3, yes, we got to round 3 of Llama lab test. There was a lot of indoor data collection here. I did this one live on YouTube. I'll link below to that video, and everyone, well, a lot of people came along for the ride, literally. Steady state stuff looked pretty good. The sprint looked pretty good. Here's the data here. People online, I had 2 power meters showing at once. People were seeing the difference was about probably 5 to 6 watts maybe. And you can see here, there was about 7 watts difference overall, including the sprint between the Vector 3s and the Tax Neo. Within spec, happy days. My chain was a little squeaky. That's happy. I'm okay with that. And then, so this is the 3rd hard sprint. And then into the overs and unders, ignore the little wonkiness there. That's me sort of getting a bit sloppy on the pedals after a hard sprint. Fine, looking good after that. So numbers wise, they're looking pretty good. And I put those offsets after the sprints down to just settling the pedals down, because you saw after the 3rd sprint, everything was happy days. A quick wrap up of the maximums across all 3 Llama lab tests here and all power meters that I had on the bike. So the first Llama lab test here was 1165 max, 1163, 1133 with the 3 power meters I had. That's looking pretty damn good. Llama lab test number 2 maximums, 1096 versus 1106, so we're within 10 watts there of the 2. That's really, really good. And the final Llama lab test, 1177 versus 1162. So very, very consistent numbers in the sprints for maximum power between the Neo and the Vector 3s. That's pretty cool. Okay, jumping over to the outside ride with the Vector 3s up against the stages left-right. As mentioned, the right-hand side of my stages reads a little low, so I expect the numbers from the stages to be just a little bit lower than the Vector 3s. That would be consistent with what I'm seeing indoors across multiple tests. And here we go. Overall, 195 versus 199, the Vector 3s being 4 watts higher there. Happy days, that's all looking good. Okay, up the hill here, a little bit higher on the Vector 3s, and the right-hand side of the stage is reading a little lower, but very consistent there. 269 versus 283. That's what I was seeing. Inside, outside, data's looking pretty good. And jumping to the maximums of this, the stages left, right. Now the stages is pretty good in a sprint. I don't know why. The sprints are good, but the steady states always show low on the right. However, here's what it is. 1028 versus 1010 on the Vector 3s. Happy days with the data there. Okay, let's wrap this one up. This is the video that I wanted to make 12 months ago on the Vector 3 pedals. It took me this long to get about making it though, for a number of reasons. Look, I won't forget the dramas that I've had with these, and any future rides and future data or comparisons that I will be doing with the Vector 3s will be done with a critical eye thrown across them. There is a reason why the Vectors won the Kona bike power meter count this year. They're everywhere. They're Garmin. The distribution network is global. They're everywhere, and they must work for a lot of people. So it looks like the issues have been ironed out. Look, the Asioma Duos are putting the Vector 3s to the sword though. The Duos are $200 cheaper and they do just work. The online commentary from people absolutely love their Asiomas. The online commentary from Vector 3 owners, well, see my last 2 videos about that. It's a common theme happening there. But look, looks like it's smooth sailing from here on in. There we go. All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks for watching. Please hit subscribe to support the channel, and we'll be back with more very soon.